What's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody? I just want to hop into my 2 cents about how to actually get your foot in the door. We got like real granular in the conversation, talking about like what to do, like once you're already like 5 years in and stuff. But I think a lot of these dudes might not even be anywhere near that. So I just kind of want to give them a little bit of advice to actually try to get into IT. So the main two things you want to focus on are trying to get work experience and the certifications. I mean, we did kind of touch on that, bro. Truth literally just said kind of what I was going to talk about anyway. The main thing, you don't necessarily have to like have like a quote unquote real IT job to have valuable work experience for an employer. Even some customer service type jobs will show the employer like, okay, this person actually has some soft skills that are actually going to make them more pleasant to work with. And a lot of people actually value that. And if you can actually show up and demonstrate that to like enough degree, that could actually go a lot further than somebody that barely has like any experience at all, but then like they absolutely have like no soft skills. So it's definitely, a balancing act. You definitely need to have the real technical skills as well. Like you can't substitute that for anything. So definitely still try to focus on getting certifications. If you're in school, that's great. I think that also helps check a box on resume. And like, what was his name? Somebody mentioned before how the system is basically looking for keywords. So when you have a degree, that's going to help tick a lot of boxes for a lot of those recruiters and employers. So if you want to get more employability, like that's definitely going to go a long way. Those are just like the main points I just kind of want to touch on. It's not that much.
Hey, Devil's Bane. So I want to add on to what you just said. And I totally agree. Like, yes, having keywords in your resume and help you out, also having soft skills. And soft skills is just being able to actually have a conversation with somebody as a real human being. But I used to work in career services and now I work for a recruitment company. So a lot of the things such as they look at your history as like, your previous jobs, and they will do things like flag you if you leave too many companies. Now, I'm not saying that it's like that you have to stay at a company, especially if you're a contractor, you can move whenever you want to, and it may not affect you. But I would just say because I do actually see the data, and then let's say if you leave a company or you get let go, they track all of that kind of information.
Yep.
Another thing is looking on the actual job description helps you out tremendously, because what you can do is you can say, okay, I need to know Python to become a data engineer. Python is probably one of the easiest coding languages that you can learn, along with SQL or SQL, if you ever want to say it like that. But if you learn those kind of things, you can actually go on like the New Boston, or you can go on like codingphase.com, who's also a YouTuber. You can go to a lot of these resources that are already on YouTube by just looking at the job description saying, okay, I need to know SQL. Let me look up SQL. Let me take a free YouTube course that can teach me this, because SQL is probably one of the easiest ones along with Python. And also Java is taught by a lot of, I will say because I'm in Atlanta, but it's taught by a lot of colleges around in Georgia area, is like your first programming language that you'll learn. So, and that's only if you want to go on the back end side. There's a whole other side where it goes into the front end and also the
I would
UI.
argue the front end right now is a little bit too saturated, honestly. Like I don't even think people should really look at that.
Their front end's always saturated, man. You pretty much got to be full stack, like a full stack engineer for the front end and the back end at this point, because just like the brother mentioned, the front end is very saturated with like JavaScript and very simple things. Like there's coding boot camps that would pretty much put you in a front end development course for like, I don't know, a month, maybe two. And then they'll siphon you to some low paying coding job. So a lot of times if you're front end and back end, you're more competitive in the field.
Definitely.
Now you do have to watch out for certain companies that do try to take advantage. I forgot the name of the company, but you'll see them message you on LinkedIn or in your email. And then what they'll say is, hey, I got a contract for you. You need to be able to move. But what we'll do is we'll be able to train you, doing like a pseudo boot camp for like a few months. And then what they do is they'll ship you off to wherever in the United States. You don't get to choose where. That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, Reviture. So like a company like that, it'll make it sound good if you're like desperate for like getting into that field, and you'll be like, okay, I'll just take any kind of job. But then what they'll do is they'll say, okay, as soon as you sign on this contract, you'll be earning $20,000 less than what you could be. So you could make $60,000
off the top.
I 100% agree, but that's contracting in general. And I've worked on contracts and I'm not saying I know anything better than anybody else, but that's a given. The company is hired to find a position for you, and they have to get a cut. So all of them gonna take a chunk. They try to keep it within the industry, but they're all gonna take a chop off the top.
And that was going to be my second point in contracting versus working full time, is that they're getting something off the top of you. right?
Exactly.
They're getting something off of your total compensation, and it
hopefully,
gotta get tiring.
but that's
Especially if you
what
expose
consulting.
what those numbers are. No, it's for contracting. No, I'm saying if you're going through some type of contracting firm, then yeah, they are taking something off the top.
Absolutely. But that's what consulting comes in, right? Because if you consult with businesses directly, then you're able to set your own price. There's no one taking anything off the top.
Yeah, somebody is taking something off the
Well,
top.
that's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about actually you, individual, Gabe, going to a business and saying, hey, okay, you need help with XYZ project. This is what I can provide for you. It's going to cost. In that instance, you do not have any type of contract in between you and that business.
So you're talking about
So I got,
1099? Is it B2B type of thing? Business to business?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want it
Go-
to sound like contracting is like the worst thing in the world, though, because like there are benefits if you want to become a contractor. Like actually getting the work experience is one of the biggest ones. But also, if you want to be able to get more experience, yeah, you can work at a certain company for a long period of time. But then if you want to get a wide range of different experiences, then going the contractor route with different companies will actually help you to be like, okay, well, you know what? I learned Python at this job. I want to learn JavaScript at the other one. I learned like this framework, and then but you can't really do that with just one specific company. So that's why a lot of contractors continue to be contractors, and also you are supposed to be getting paid more to be compensated for the fact that the company doesn't pay for your like health insurance a lot of the time. They don't
No
give you
401k matching. Yeah.
yeah, you don't get the 401k match. So that's some benefits to contracting. So I don't want anybody to be persuaded away from going the contract route. It's just be a
Yeah.
contractor, and then just like how Gabe said earlier, is eventually when you've been contracted for so long, you got so much experience, then you might want to go full time.
Contracting can be very lucrative though as well. I'm just bringing it into another or somewhat of another topic, but that's why another reason I push people to the military. That way you can get that clearance. You can also go into those IT fields within the military that allow you to get certified in those different areas and then go out and contract. For instance, and I always throw this number out here because I actually made it, but you can make some serious money contracting. I'm not talking about just regular companies. I'm talking about DoD contracting, where I was in Afghanistan for close to 5 years, and I was pulling in the highest during one of my contract periods was $250,000 a year. So
That's
a quarter of
wild.
$1 million to do database administration or database development, is can change your life. That's another reason I push people into the military so you can get that clearance, because that's another thing that's very invaluable when working in the IT field and government contracts. I know not everybody can get into the military. Oh, go ahead, bro. Truth. Sorry.
He's right on the security clearance standpoint. Like when I got out, unfortunately, my dumb ass let it lapse. I didn't value it. It is what it is, man. Because I mean, it's not like I'm struggling now or anything like that.
Yeah.
Cool, but it's not like if I wanted to, I can get another security clearance. No problem. It's not required to be successful in IT. But if you want to get into any type of government contract, most of the times they want to see some type of security clearance level that is required.
Don't they
You
make you
really,
like take a polygraph and like ask you if you ever like smoke weed or anything?
it really comes down to the level of security you need required, right? If
Well,
you're
I can
talking
talk
about
about that.
like
I've
some
had
top
a-
secret type bro, then yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna freaking go through. No, I'll
I
just
gotta-
finish up right quick,
Oh,
bro.
go ahead.
So they actually gonna have to do a couple of security clearance qualifications for other people, right? So they actually will reach out to like your friends. You have to list people that you know, and they will go ask them questions about you, bro.
Yep.
Like it's no joke.
I've had a top secret clearance since 2003 when I first came into the military. I used to work for the NSA and do all kind of other crazy stuff. But I kind of fell into the area like bro truth. When I got out the army, my security clearance kind of quote unquote expired, but it's not expired in the sense that it's just totally gone. I'm still in the system as having a TS clearance. So as long as I don't get arrested or do some crazy crap, I'll always still be listed as having a TS clearance. And they can just go through and essentially they would just pull up all of my information that I use to list to get the clearance. Because like bro Truth said, when I had to do that clearance, aside from I had to take like 2 polygraph tests. Yeah, and they did ask me questions about did I smoke weed, and I had to actually answer yes, I did back in the day. I had to do the drug test, but
Hold on,
they
did
went
you,
back.
you had the 420 and we found out you
Oh,
at
I
some
used,
point
I
in
used-
your
I
life
used-
you had to cook.
I used to be about that life something serious before I joined the military.
Okay.
But with the actual clearance thing,
Believable.
they actually went back about 15 years into my past. Just like Bro True said, they was actually going up to these people's houses, knocking on doors and asking about me. And I've had to do that for other people when they were going to get a clearance. But the clearance thing is important if you want to do government work, especially if you want to try to maximize your salary. Like Keep It Techie, he said he was making $250,000 a year. So me and Keep It Techie, we were actually in Afghanistan the same time. I was there 2010, 2011. I was in the Army and I was in charge of a help desk / TCF, basically just a service desk. And I had about 20 contractors working for me. I was their boss, even though I was in the military. But the lowest paid contractor on our team is a dude named Marcus. He was making $125,000, and then the highest paid, he was making $300,000. And this was all tax. Well, the first
Tax
100 is
free.
the first 100 is tax free.
That
Now,
was 90.
being that we pulled out of Afghanistan, I don't know how this is going to work, but this is how it was 10 years ago. But they were able to get those because they had some type of clearance, whether it was just the basic interim clearance all the way up to a TS clearance. But these clearances, they can make you extremely valuable, especially if you're doing work that's directly related to the government. But you don't necessarily need it to get it popping in IT, because you can still go out there and get jobs with private companies where they don't necessarily need a clearance.
Yep.
They can still pay you well over 6 figures. I'll give you an example, because my youngest brother, he's been doing IT for 9 years. He started off help desk, and then he's transitioned into cybersecurity. He's only been in IT 9 years, and he makes $130,000. He doesn't have any clearance at all, so it's possible.
Damn. Go ahead, Gabe. What you about to say?
And I was going to ask, I mean, I think everybody's bringing up the thing about making the high amounts, but where did you have to be? You have to be in Iraq. I'm not saying it's a horrible place. Well, I'm sure it is, right? It's battleground, right? It's war place.
It really depends on where you at, right? If you're in the green zone, you good. Like, you in Baghdad green zone. If you're on a fob, you're good. But if you're on the outskirts,
Who decides that for you?
well, most contractors are in the green zone. Like, from when I deployed back in 2003 and 2006, most of the contractors that I engaged with, they stayed on the fob, forward operation base, where everyone was, where they had the big ass defects. Not to say that they didn't see any like mortar attacks, because that occurred. But when you're talking about actually firefights and all this other you got to deal with, nah.
It doesn't necessarily mean you got to go down range. You can go get contract jobs working in the Gulf of Mexico on those oil rigs. Like, they got these things all over the place, and some of those contract jobs in the Gulf of Mexico, they might not pay $200,000-$300,000, but you can go out there and get a job doing some IT work or some level where they're paying you like 100 racks to sit on an oil rig in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico doing whatever the heck it is they do out there. So that doesn't mean you just have to go to the Mideast. This stuff is everywhere.
And you can also end up in San Diego on a DoD contract, making over 100,000. So yeah, I 100% agree. It's all over the place. And also, I was just gonna add to what Brother Truth was saying about it being dangerous or whatever. Most of the time, you're sitting behind a desk. If you're working in IT, you're gonna be sitting behind a desk. The only people that's out there kicking in doors is Blackwater, or whatever they calling themselves now, and that's the government contracts. They provide security contracts so if you can't shoot a rifle, you hired on for IT, you're gonna be sitting behind a desk somewhere. You're not gonna be in the middle of.
Listen, you got a higher chance of being killed in any random hood in America
I know, right?
being killed in Iraq, Afghanistan. I'm just keeping it a buck.
That's
I was
facts.
over there a whole year, got shot at a couple times, had to deal with mortars, but that wasn't like an everyday occurrence. You know what I'm
You
saying?
just glossed over that real quick. Got shot at a couple of times.
Well, what I'm saying is,
What?
yeah, I did get shot at. I was in the military, but I wasn't getting shot
I
at every
understand.
single
That's
day.
what I'm saying. That's where those premiums come from, right? That's
But-
why they
well,
paid
yes.
the premium, because you're
Yeah,
in
there is
Iraq.
a premium. No, you're right. There is a premium because you're in that zone. But just like Keep It Techie said, you don't have to go downrange, as we call it, in order to get those type of high-paying contract jobs. You can find them in the U.S.
You can go to Kuwait and still get that payment. In Kuwait, you ain't
Oh,
got to
yeah.
worry about it. You can go to Dubai. You know what I mean? They can send you to the UAE.
Yep.
That's still considered technically downrange, and you
Yep.
still would get that same amount of pay.
I met a bus driver when I was in this small country called Qatar, Qatar. The dudes, they were driving these Bluebird bus around picking up airmen and soldiers. They were getting paid $90,000 a year to literally just drive a bus around in a damn circle all day.
Yeah,
Shit
there was
trucks.
somebody in the MWR folding towels. She was making $150,000, bro,
Yep.
in the MWR, bro,
Yeah,
in
I know.
AC.
They had people that was just escorting the trucks that was making over 100,000. All it is a truck that goes through and suck out from the latrine. They didn't have to touch it.
But
They had the local nationals touch it, but they were
Sounds fun.
just but $120,000 a year.
But the reason why I mentioned going down range is because that's one of the ways you can make an extremely large amount of money in a short period of time. What I mean is, so when I first got to Afghanistan in 2010, I ran into this dude who was working in this TCF. He was dealing with some type of circuits or whatever. I think he had did like 1 or 2 years in the Army, got out, went right back overseas as a contractor, and he was working where I was working. This dude was only like 24 years old at the time. He was making $200,000 a year to do his job. And so I asked this dude, I was like, hey, bro, how long you plan on being over here? He was like, I'm going to be over here until they kick me out the country. Basically, he was like, I'm not leaving until this war ends because they're paying me 200 racks a year to do this. He's like, by the time I go back to put my feet on U.S. soil, I'm going to be a millionaire, have all my stuff paid off, and get my chill on. He was planning to do this before he was 30 years old. So this is stupid, ridiculous money that you can make over there. But I get it. You don't want to get shot at. Just like Bro Truth said, there are other countries in the quote unquote danger zone where you don't get shot at, like Kuwait, Qatar, Dubai, and other places like that. But even if you don't want to go over there, they got contract work here in America. But I just brought that up because I've seen firsthand how much money people can make in such a short amount of time doing some basic, simple, elementary IT type of stuff.
That's my only support of SYSBM, and so to speak. I don't fully support it. I mean, I'm married and everything, but when you young, it's best to do something like that. If you want to set yourself up for the future, I recommend join the military or whatever if you want to, and then try to get in a government contract in. And that's my whole point for saying it, because we got a lot of young people that's trying to figure out what they want to do in whatever they trying to do. If you plan on getting into IT, that's a pathway to be successful and set yourself up for the future, in my opinion.
And that's another point I was going to make. I forgot about it. So you typically see people wanting to be full-time when, they have families, they have children and whatnot to think about, to get the health benefits that comes with being full-time. Not to say that that's the case all the time. However, these are certain things that a family man has to take into account. Are you going to provide me with a safety net of health care and everything for my wife and kids? When you're young and you don't got nothing going on as far as like the family and all to take care of, bro, contract to contract. Build that experience
Healthcare
up.
is just for families. You don't want healthcare for yourself.
Well, what I'm getting to is, brother, when you're younger, they might go to the doctor every year so to get a checkup, but ain't in the doctor trying to get no pills. They ain't got to worry about their kids getting into any problems or having to go for yearly checkups. Kids and wives cost, especially when it comes to healthcare. You have more people to be concerned with when you are married with children. Do you not? That's the whole point I'm trying to make. When you're young, you don't have those responsibilities. So that's what I'm getting to.
When I talk to like my coworkers, especially when I was a contractor and they were full time, one of the biggest topics they talk about is like, healthcare or just the benefits, whatever, just for their family. And that was one of the reasons why they were sort of rooted in the city or the area they were. But yeah, like you were saying, if you're young or if you just have the opportunity to travel, you don't have anything tying you down to a location, do it. Because not just for the increased chance of getting a job, but also too, just for the experience, like being able to go to different places on other people's dime and getting paid as well. So it's a win-win.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of what DOD, the government fellows, have been talking about with these particular jobs that have very high amounts that they pay. But one thing that I don't think that they've been speaking about is, or they actually said it, that it's very menial work, right? Barely doing anything. But then there's this whole thing where they were talking about getting more and more additional skills. If that's what you're doing, where are the IT skills coming from?
So basically, there are a whole bunch of types of government contracts, and a lot of them require you to have a clearance. It's not all IT. They could have multi-million-dollar contract, and it could have IT positions underneath it. It could have a whole bunch of support type positions underneath that contract. They hire people based on the skills. So we wasn't bringing up those menial positions for IT or to explain anything to do with IT. It was all related to how much money that they're paying over there just for menial positions.
Exactly.
But when you get into the IT positions, that kind of lets you know how much you can make within the IT positions once you actually secure one of those IT positions. And it's not even like a way to work up to that. You don't have to be driver or anybody that's doing a mediocre job to get to the IT piece. You have to qualify for those IT positions just like you would in the States. You would apply to it just like any position here in the States. You have to have Security Plus, those DoD certifications we were talking about. You have to have all the required skills to actually get that position. It doesn't have anything to do with those other positions. We were just throwing it out there about the amount of money. So if someone wasn't able to get into IT, they can at least set themselves up for the future by getting one of those mediocre task positions. That was the only reason it came up. That's why I brought up the Blackwater or whatever their company name is now. You have to have those specific skills. If you can't shoot a weapon, if you can't understand situational awareness, if you can't understand how to breach a building, they're not going to hire you because you don't qualify for that position. You have to actually qualify for it. It's the same thing with the government contracting IT positions overseas. They just pay a whole lot more when it comes to that because of the fact that you actually brought up, which was the danger factor. That's why they give you those stipends on top of it. Because at the end of the day, and just to break down my contract, the way it works is, and I'll break it down fully. It only take a second, but yes, I was making $250,000 a year, but half of it was the base pay. So I was getting paid like 175 was the actual contract amount, but they throw stipends on top of it because of the location that you're on. So it basically doubled with all the stipends. That's how it broke all the way up close to 150. So I just wanted to explain it. Hopefully that explains it for you.
Earlier, they brought up how, as a contractor, you can't necessarily get health insurance. Now, I will say that you can still get health insurance, and you can still get it through your company that you're contracting with. So, as an example, like me, right, I had a very bad allergic reaction. When I went to the doctor, they were like, damn, you have some really good insurance. So you might be missing out on like PTO, but it really just depends on the kind of company that you're going for. And what you can do is you can ask, am I going out? I'll keep it quick. What I was saying is you can speak to your recruiter and then say, okay, before you sign this contract, do I get any health insurance? What are all the benefits that come with being a contractor for your company? So that's something that you do before you even sign on the dotted line that you want to take this position.
And I was actually hoping Gabe A would actually bring that up because I've talked to him plenty of times about negotiating contracts. There is a way to actually negotiate on a contract that you're going for, especially if you have the skills in the background that they're looking for. You can kind of set your terms or whatever. Certain companies don't provide benefits like medical benefits, but a lot of them do. And you can negotiate that as well as percentages with 401ks. You just have to ask those questions when you're actually going through these recruiters because they're kind of like a go-between at the end of the day. They're going to get the money and it's up to them to decide how they want to spend that money on you. So you have to be able to have the mindset to negotiate with those companies that are actually hiring you for this position with the larger company at the end of the day.
Also, another point, it kind of goes in line with that. So don't think of the company as like, the king and you're just a peasant or anything. Think about it like even when you're in an interview, you're trying to interview them as well because they ask you at the end of the interview and you should always have questions to ask the employer or the hiring manager. You should always say something like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys face on a day-to-day basis? And also, why are you trying to fill this position or when do you plan to fill it by? You can qualify them just as they're trying to qualify you because at the end of the day, it's really just like how it is a contract between you. You're providing them a service of your services of IT or programming or whatever, but also they're providing you with the money and or benefits that you will get from actually providing that service.
You sound like a straight recruiter.
Well, I mean, I used to work in career services, so
Shout out to CJ. He says plenty of IT jobs in the U.S. that pay 60 to 80K plus unlimited overtime, no degree, no search, just 2 years of support. Get on LinkedIn and apply to Middle America. Do appreciate you. Shout out to CJ as well.
And one thing that you can do as starting out, man, is look for these IT jobs in these undesirable places to live. I know it's gonna suck. When I first started out, I was literally considering moving to Oklahoma to work for a hospital. Luckily, I found a position in Atlanta. The rest is history. But look for these positions in these po-dirt towns in the middle of nowhere. Get you some experience and then get out of there.
Don't feel desperate though. That's one thing.
They can smell the desperation on you.
Make sure you guys go subscribe to Tech G's channel as well. I'm gonna put the link down there. We're gonna do some closing thoughts. So who wanna go first?
I'll go ahead and go first, man. For brothers that want to get into IT, man, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Start learning. Just get into it. I know it seems like an unconquerable obstacle starting out. Trust me, I know. Even to this day, when new technology is coming out faster than I can keep up, I'm actually learning AWS right now. I'm at the bottom of the mountain right now when it comes to AWS. This is brand new information for me, but I know the value that that certification has, and I know where the future of technology is going. So I'm willing to sacrifice hours out of my day, my weekends, to learn this technology. So you have to have that same mindset, bro. You have to understand that it's going to take time. You're learning, and you have to be comfortable with making mistakes on the way. But don't make a mountain out of a molehill, bro. Just get into it. If you want to learn it, start. YouTube, there's plenty of free resources out here. There's no excuse. Thanks for having me over, Mil. Appreciate it.
No problem, child. Salute to Bro True. Appreciate you coming through. Who wants to go next with the closing thoughts?
I'll go next.
All right, go ahead.
Peace out, everybody.
All right. All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Thank you, Ramil, and also the panel for having me on the channel. First time on joining on the panel, but been following you for a while now. And one thing I wanted to say for the people who are already in school for computer science, because that's the path I took. One of the biggest things that you can probably do is get an internship before you actually graduate, because that is something that you can put on your resume. Some colleges require that you get an internship, others don't. And then if they don't, then it's on you to be able to do it. You have to be self-motivated and be able to have that drive to be able to do something that you really want to do. And if you're interested in going into the tech industry or also becoming a developer, you have to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take the initiative. I'm going to read this book, cracking the coding interview or something similar to that, and then be able to get on your grind. So thank you again for having me on the channel.
I appreciate you. Thanks for coming through, man. Anytime. Salute to you, brother. Who wants to go next?
All right, I just want to say, young brothers out there, focus, put your head down and just learn the material. You'll get there. It takes a little bit of time, but that time spent will pay dividends. So it's definitely worth doing. All right, thanks for having me. Later on, guys.
I appreciate you. All right, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I would tell the brothers, look for a mentor first, because a lot of brothers got too much pride before they get into the industry. Make sure you look for a mentor first so they can guide you the interview process, how to talk to people, how to speak to people, how to dress, what type of resume you should have, what programming language you should use first, or which field you should go into first. Make sure you look for a mentor. Don't have too much pride. Basically, that's it, man. I appreciate you having it, even though I couldn't talk because everybody was had their own input, but it's cool. I appreciate it, brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming through. Who want to go next for closing thoughts?
Shout out to you, Ramil, for doing the stream. Appreciate it. Getting the information out to, young folks that's trying to get into the field. Definitely holler at Tech G. Definitely has an excellent channel that breaks down, everything you need to do to get into IT by walking you through all these certifications that can open the door for you. And like he says all the time, 6 months to a year, you can actually be in the field working towards a better position. You just gotta start. All the resources are out here. It's all on the internet. You can get pretty much all the training you need for free on the internet. It's all out here. You just gotta have the drive and the willing to go out there and actually look for it and pick it up and start learning. And then also somebody else brought up training at home. You can actually start a lot of this stuff from home. If you have an old computer sitting around, you can install a lot of these applications or connect to them, like all these cloud applications, connect to them and then actually train on them and learn how it actually works. And it'll help you and put you in a better position by understanding how this stuff works, and you can actually speak to it in the interview process. Shout out to you, Ramil, again. Tech G, salute, and everybody else that came on the panel. Shout out to you guys for assisting with the conversation, putting out your knowledge to these young folks that's actually listening to this. So shout out. I'm out.
Salute to keep it taking, man. Thanks for coming through, man. Always dropping that valuable information as well. Yeah, I gotta go mess with him as well.
As you can see, my IT channel on the screen, Tech G. But I appreciate you having me on the stream. But like I said, pretty much everybody else has said my sentiments. But the thing that I guess I can add is that, we're in the 21st century. This is what our entire lives are dictated by IT. You don't have to be an IT professional like me, who's been doing this for almost 20 years. You could still be somebody like Ramil, who uses tech in order to advance his life in other areas. But I do believe that you need to have some type of basic level understanding beyond just how to turn your phone on and watch a YouTube video. But If you do want to take it to that next level because you want to get into tech, you want to go out there and make the money or try to transition to starting your own business, the stuff that I preach and teach, like I stated earlier, is just really designed to get you into the game. Once you get in, it is incumbent upon you to do the stuff that Brother Truth was talking about and everybody else is getting higher level certs so you can begin to maximize your pay and all that other stuff. I just teach you how to get into the game through the way that I was taught how to get into it. That's what I do.